Alrighty, folks. Thanks for clicking on this video. James Cards FC here, and today I'm going to do something a little different. No formal presentation. I'm actually just going to be using Zoom meetings basically to go ahead and show you my screen that I'm working with, and we're going to go through some data on the soccer card market for this past half year. We just reached the halfway mark a couple of days ago, and so I wanted to go back and look at how this half year has gone for our market. And in case you're new to this channel, this is the James Cards FC soccer card channel. I talk about the more financial side of the soccer card market, and today specifically going to be talking about a mid-year in review for 2023. What cards are going up, what cards are going down, sort of where are the key cards in the market, and what have we been seeing this year so far. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started. I might be a bit rusty considering I don't usually have my slide aid is not here to save me in case I can't think of what to talk about, but we're going to go ahead and get started with it. This all data is coming from Card Ladder. I have whatever the premium version of the account is there. I think it's $10 or $15, but don't feel like you need to get that. That's just what I'm using today. If you're interested, feel free to look into it more. I don't have a subscription code or anything like that to give you. I just like using this service to more visualize what's going on in the market. So soccer card market over the past 6 months, we are down 28.72% on the whole. Card Ladder, of course, does not have every card in the soccer card market, but it does have a good number of key cards as well as non-key cards, as we'll see as we go through this presentation. But for the most part, I think this is the best gauge you can look at in one picture of how the market is doing. It's not perfect, but it's definitely the best thing we have and much better than me trying to put one together on my own, which would take a ridiculous amount of time to do. But as you can see, the market's sort of steadily been dropping over the past 6 months. We are down 28.5% on the year. But of course, if you zoom out, this is what the soccer card market looks like if you're not familiar. Really didn't exist prior to 2020. Then all the COVID stuff happens, all sports cards go up, and then this gets really crazy. A bunch of media, stimulus money, second round of PPP loans, all that sort of fun stuff happens in here of 2021. Brings a lot of new money and participants to the market. Everything goes to the moon. And as 2022 comes around and things sort of get back to normal in personal life, financial life, all those sorts of things, the market starts pulling all the way back. And so far, we have pulled back to the point that we were at after the initial explosion in late 2020-ish. We're nowhere near this second boom period, which I was talking about before. This is when second round of PPP loans come out, stimulus money comes out again. A lot of national media attention is focused on sports cards at this point. So this is the general peak right here. So we're nowhere near where that is, but we are still around where we were after the 2020 initial explosion that we saw happen. So that's where we are at in the stock card market as a whole. And then we'll go and look at some specific key cards that I picked out to discuss today. So if this loads correctly, of course. Okay, so the first card I wanted to discuss in terms of key cards is this Kylian Mbappé rookie sticker from 2016 in PSA 10 condition. It is currently valued at around $4,000. That was its last selling price as of late June 2023. If you zoom out completely, this is how it's done all time. So it started off, at least when Card Ladder started tracking, at around $400. And it's basically 10x that right now, but it clearly went to the moon in 2021. And its current price at $4,000 is most comparable to, again, that late 2020/early 21 timeframe after the initial boom, but before all the extra craziness that happened in 2021. So if I go back to the 6-month view, this sticker in particular is down 28% in a PSA 10, so it's pretty much falling in line exactly with the stock card market in general. Mbappe's kind of been out of the spotlight. I wanted to focus on him first because I was curious how his cards and stickers were doing, considering that he is so far out of the spotlight right now. But he seems to be moving very much in line with the market. PSA 10 condition down 27%. PSA 9 condition, interestingly, is actually up 20% on the year. It's probably just a more approachable price point for people. $900 to $1,000 versus $4,000 to $5,000 is quite a big difference in terms of price there. And the population of the 9 is 521, and the population of the 10 is 200. So people are more willing to give up the $700 to $1,000 to go for the 9 than they are to give up the $4,000 to $5,000 for the 10. And if we go down one grade lower, the PSA 8 is actually doing really well as well. The PSA 8 is up 37%. So at least what we're seeing right now on the Kylian Mbappé rookie sticker market is that the high grade is suffering while the lower grades, the more collector grades, as we would call them, are actually doing quite well over the past 6 months. And then we'll move forward to his 2017 Topps Chrome Champions League. This is the refractor in PSA 10 condition. It is down around 7% over the past 6 months, so staying pretty flat overall. I'm curious what's going on with the PSA 9. PSA 9, just like with the stickers, actually up. I'm not sure what caused that random spike there. Somebody probably just got excited about buying one in a PSA 9, I guess, and the price spiked for a bit. But for the most part, both these grades are pretty flat in terms of his PSA 10 refractor from 2017. If I wanted to look at the base really quick, I haven't checked this. It's down 21%, so still pretty much in line with the overall soccer card market at PSA 10 condition. And PSA 9 is really all over the place in terms of its selling points, but is down 56% overall over the past 6 months. This one has a really big population of over 1,000 in PSA 9 condition. In PSA 10, it has 1,000 pop as well. So there's just a lot of these cards graded in base PSA 9 and 10. So when you move to the refractor, it drops down to 174. So over the past 6 months, holding fairly decently for Kylian Mbappé. If you go back to the all-time view, you're going to see the exact same thing that you see with pretty much every soccer card. Starts around 1,600, it goes to the moon, comes all the way back. And so this current price is actually right around where it started to be sold for in early/mid 2020. So that's pretty interesting to note that Mbappe's 2017 Chrome refractor is pretty much where it was when the soccer card market sort of started in 2020. And then I wanted to move forward to his silver prism from the 2018 Prism World Cup. This was one of the hottest cards at the peak of the market just because people really liked Prism, and Mbappe had won the World Cup with France in this specific set. So people were really pushing that narrative that this was the Kylian Mbappe rookie that you wanted to have. And so those narratives are pretty much gone out of the market these days. I don't think people view this as a rookie card. They just view this as a key card for Kylian Mbappe. And so it still does receive a high price. As you can see here, it last sold for $1,000 on July 1st. And over the past 6 months, it is down 23%. So like with most Kylian Mbappe stuff, it is very much in line with the overall soccer card market. PSA 9 condition is fairly flat as well, up 12% for him. And then curiously, just to look at the base, I'll look at the blue in a second, but I want to look at the base real quick. Base sort of all over the place, but down 33% overall. The blue, I think, could be interesting to look at, assuming it has sales. Yeah, the blue is down 32%, which is the most of any of the variations we just looked at. This does not surprise me at all. High end is performing pretty much the worst, unless you're counting very low end stuff like base that are super high pop in PSA 10. Those typically are not performing well in this down market just because there's so many of them. But the upper side of the market is not doing well as well because you don't really have a lot of people that are ready to shell out $7,000 to $5,000 on a Kylian Mbappe card at any given time. That pool of people is just very small. And as the economy it's rebounded pretty well in terms of the stock market, but there's still a lot of people that don't have a lot of liquid cash on them to spend on things like this. So it makes sense that the high-end market still continues to falter when there's just not that many people that are going to be in this market to buy these sorts of things every single day. So when 5 of them sell or one of them sells every month, that's another person that has to offer up $5,000 to $7,000 on one of these. And there's just not that many people, at least in our current market, to keep buying these up. So that's why, at least in my opinion, that this is performing worse than the lower tier versions of this card. Although this card is really nice and definitely wouldn't mind having one day. PSA 9 performing better, not surprising at all. This price point is just a lot more attractive for a wider audience. $1,500 versus $5,000 is just a big difference. A lot more people can acquire a card like this. Then we move forward to one of my favorite Kylian Mbappe cards. I wanted to put up the Kaboom in PSA 10 from 2018. It is completely flat. Up 2% on the year. Literally every single one of these sales is within a couple $100s of each other. So this one has a very, very stable market. It's a key card, not just for Kylian Mbappe and not just for his market, but it's a key card for the sports card market because a lot of the people in the market that aren't even in soccer collect this set, specifically the 2018 Panini Kaboom set is very well collected because it features a bunch of different sports in it. So there's people trying to put together full sets. This is one of the most sought after inserts in the ultra market. So it makes sense to me that this is continuing to hold exactly pretty much its exact price. Although if I go back all time, it still looks a little silly. Of course, goes to the moon and sort of comes back, and it has been very, very flat for the past 6 months. Sold for only $200 in 2019. That's pretty funny. But yeah, that's the PSA 10. And then the PSA 9 is, let me go back to a 6-month view here. Oh, wow, that's a really nice game there. 2,500, 2,000, 4,000. Somebody probably got a little overexcited here. They're paying almost more than half of a PSA 10 for this card in PSA 9. Those ratios usually don't work like that. So I don't think this was the best buy right here. I think its true market is probably somewhere in here. Alrighty, switching gears here. Let's talk about Erling Haaland. He had probably the best season of anybody in the soccer card market overall. You could argue for Messi, you could argue for Haaland, but it's going to be one of those guys. At least at club level, it was definitely Erling Haaland. So over the past 6 months, this is his Sapphire in PSA 10, one of his more key rookie cards, and it is down 9.5%. So performing pretty much in line with the market, flat over the past 6 months. But of course, if you go back, it's going to look crazy. So I just wanted to go back a year, actually, because I think this is really interesting for Haaland. If you go back a year, it's up 10%. So a 20% shift when you move it to the 6-month view. But as you can see, when the year was about to start, it was around a $600 card. Then you had this crazy run up, which is something we really don't see that much in the soccer card market these days. Because he was scoring a bunch of goals at a ridiculous rate at the beginning of the Premier League season, people got super excited because, oh my God, he's going to break the Premier League record for goals. And he actually does break the Premier League record for goals somewhere in this range, but there's no fear of missing out at that point. The fear of missing out point was in here, and then he actually broke the record out in here. But people are going for the hype, not necessarily the news. So when people talk about sell in the hype, don't sell when the news hits, this is exactly what they're talking about here with Erling Haaland. The money to be made on Haaland was right in this range. But if you ended up holding, thinking that for some reason when he did end up doing it, or if he did end up doing it, he would see a huge increase in price, and that just didn't happen. This was the exit point, and I think I put out a video around this time saying that this might be the exit point. So I'll give myself a little win there, but I didn't personally have any Haaland, so it's not like I actually had any monetary wins there. But yeah, keep in mind, you're usually best in a lot of cases to sell during the hype, not during the news portion. Sticking with Erling Haaland, this is his PSA 10 sticker for Panini Fußball Bundesliga, one of his first cards or stickers that came out, and the most typical for the soccer card market, the headshot sticker from his league. So a lot of people really like this. The problem, of course, is right here with the population. There are currently 554 of them in PSA 10, and more are going to be on the way because this sticker was printed 3 or 4 different times in different boxes and from the Panini website, all that sorts of stuff. So this pop will continue to grow. Not sure how much, but it definitely will continue to grow. And like with most Haaland stuff, if I go back a year, this is the crazy run up, hype, news. And so, yeah, that's pretty much what you're going to see with all Haaland cards here. The sticker itself is down 38%. I think this is down more than the card because people prefer cards, at least the American side of the market prefer cards to stickers. So the fact that the card is more desirable for the majority of the market and the sticker is so high pop and continuing to go up in population makes sense to me why this is dropping at a higher rate. Okay, on to another Erling Haaland card here. This is the 2019 Finest Champions League rookie in PSA 10 condition. This is probably my personal favorite of the Haaland rookie options just because he's wearing the Salzburg kit and it's a card rather than the sticker that is super high pop. The card, of course, is very high pop as well, but in different refractors and variations, it can be much, much lower pop than the sticker. This is just the base right here. The base is flat on the past 6 months, up 1%, and sales sort of bouncing all over the place, but over the past few weeks it's sort of leveled out at this 300 to 325 level. So that's what's going on with his Finest. Same thing with everything else in the Haaland market. Hype, news, and that's pretty much the whole story I have for you here with Erling Haaland. I wanted to look really quickly at the refractor in PSA 10. The refractor is doing extremely well. Sold in January for 1750, sold in April for 2500, and then sold in May for 2600, and is probably still around this same price if we compare it to the base. So up 51% on the refractor. That's because the population is so much smaller, and these are really hard to grade. In PSA 10, there's 41. If I go to PSA 9, there's 178. So, and this is down 9%. So there's just not a lot of these to go around, and the demand for it is really high. They don't come up on the market very much, only 3 sales, and it sits in this $1,700 to $3,000 zone. So it doesn't capture the same fall that a super high-end card does. If this was a $10,000 card, there's a lot less buyers for it. But in this 1,500 to 3,000 range, there's probably a lot more buyers on something like this than there is for, say, the Kylian Mbappé Blue Prism PSA 10 that sells even more frequently than this one does and is higher priced. Okay, switching gears to talk about Lionel Messi. So I want to talk first, of course, about his 2004 Panini Sports Mega Cracks PSA, or not PSA 10, BGS 9.5 71 Biz. Now, BGS 9.5 grades get really tough to examine on charts like this because this does not take into account the subgrades of the card. So when you're dealing with a BGS 9.5, the subgrades can matter a lot because a 9.5 can be, like this one is, 3 9.5s and a 9, but this could also be a 9.5 if it was 3 9.5s and a 10. And that can really fluctuate the prices. And it's one of the reasons why BGS can be so frustrating and annoying to deal with in terms of trying to comp. But yeah, I didn't look into these sales because I didn't want to do the work. But if you want to do the work and let me know, I'm guessing these ones up here had better subgrades than these ones down here, because this is a 50% drop, very dramatic, over the past 6 months for Lionel Messi. And it's really interesting when you compare it to the PSA 9 in particular, because the PSA 9 is up 18.75%, but it's really flat except for this one sale that got a little bit more of a $5,000 premium than the last one. Really interesting thing here is this is a $23,000 sale in the exact same auction as this BGS 9.5. It went for 19.2. In my opinion, this is because the population for the BGS 9.5 is higher than the PSA 9. It is easier to get a BGS 9.5 71 biz than it is to get a PSA 9 71 biz. I personally think BGS grades these cards easier than PSA does. Do your own research on that. I've just seen personally images of BGS 9s and BGS 9.5s that I don't think are comparable to PSA 9s. I think PSA grades this card really, really hard, whereas BGS more grades it like a typical card that you might see. So that's just my opinion. Don't take it as fact. Please do your own research, especially if you're playing in this sort of price range. But what we have seen is that the PSA 9 has now overtaken the BGS 9.5, at least in the cases where the BGS 9.5 does not have the strongest subgrades. If we go further down here, I want to look at the mid grades real quick. PSA 5 is flat over the past 6 months. PSA 6 is pretty flat over the past 6 months. PSA 3 flat over the past 6 months. So yeah, the mid to low grades in PSA are pretty flat over the past 6 months. This is just a super in-demand card, so it doesn't surprise me that it's outperforming the soccer card market in general. BGS grades, though, are slipping a little bit. Down 10% is not that bad. BGS 8.5, flat. And then I want to check BGS 9 real quick before we close this one out. And pretty flat, down 10%. So all in all, these are holding really well, seeing as how expensive they are. There are a lot of them, and they are expensive, but it's so in demand that the prices are holding relatively well because of how key this card is to the soccer card market. If you're interested in buying one, I can't tell you when a good point to buy one would be, but if I look back over the past 2 years, this, at least as of right now, is probably the best point to be buying, definitely better than up here. And if you go back to an all-time look, this price that we're at right now is the cheapest that it has been since late 2020, pretty much with everything else in the stock card market. But of course, if you zoom out long enough into 2019, you can see this card was only $1,500 and now it is $7,800. So just depends on where you think this card should be. Very expensive, very in demand. decently high pop, but not so high that it's forcing prices down into this range again. So very interesting to watch how this one continues to perform. Okay, I wanted to look at one of the other Messi rookies real quick. I picked the 2004 Mundi Chromo Liga, but pretty much all of his other rookies are performing around the same. Other meaning non-71 biz rookies. So this one over the past 6 months, down 26%, currently selling for around $2,000. It actually bottomed out in May at around 1,500 and has a nice climb back up to this $2,000 range. So overall, staying pretty flat and staying in line with the overall soccer card market there. And if I were to put this out into the all-time view, take a guess at what it looks like. Yep, same thing as everything else. Okay, this is one that is really interesting to me because the prices that it sells for, I don't think make a lot of sense personally. I don't understand how this can keep getting as high as $5,000 or $6,000 as it does randomly, and then drops back down into the 3,000 range. So I'm not sure if these sales, when it peaks out, are real sales or not, but I would be nervous about buying in any of those sorts of ranges. This card is hard to grade, but it comes from a set where there's a lot of wax still waiting to be opened. So eventually this pop will continue to increase. But depending on how key of a card you think this is for Messi, that may or may not matter to you. Over the past 6 months, down 41% in a PSA 10. If you go down to PSA 9, it's actually flat. Again, same thing I was talking about before. I think price point is really making a difference here. $430 makes a lot more sense for people than $3,000 to $5,000 does. So if you're into the market for this key Messi card and you don't want to pay up this amount of money, which I completely understand, this is a lot more digestible and probably makes a lot more sense for more people. So doing pretty well in PSA 9, actually up to flat. And then in PSA 8, same sort of thing, it's flat as well. So PSA 10 really suffering again because I think this price point just isn't realistic for the people that we currently have in our market right now. Alrighty, moving forward to the more modern side of Lionel Messi. This is his Prism World Cup base card in PSA 10. Probably his most graded card that he has out there. There are 2,344 in PSA 10 condition, and it's pretty much right in line with the overall soccer card market, down 29% over the past 6 months in PSA 10 condition. In PSA 9 condition, down 13 to 14%. I wanted to look at the silver real quick because this just had a sale. Yep. This is the sale that happened last night on PWCC. This is a big drop. This is around a 40% drop in the past 6 months. Now, I will say that the one that sold on PWCC did not look like a great PSA 10, if you can say that. There was an issue with one of the back corners that, in my opinion, should keep it from being a 10, but PSA did not agree. So it says it's PSA 10, but if you look at it, I personally don't think it should be a PSA 10. So that could be why it dropped so much, but I think it probably would have dropped anyways, because again, this price point is tough for a lot of people right now in this market. Look back to the all-time view. Guess what? Wasn't worth anything. Went to the moon and is now coming back down. So same thing as you see with every other card in the soccer card market pretty much is going on with this silver Messi as well. Now, I will say, this silver Messi is probably a lot lower pop than people think it is. It is a pop 32 in PSA 10 condition. Silvers in sets like 2018 and 2022 Prism are a lot more common than they were in 2014. They're a lot easier to grade as well than they were in 2014. So I'm always surprised by how low this pop is, but even at 32, it's a lot, and there's so many Messi cards that people target above or around this price range that I can understand why it's facing some corrections. Speaking of Messi modern cards, here is his 2017 Topps Chrome. This is the Refractor in PSA 10 condition. Again, very similar to the Prism in terms of it dropping around 30% in line with the market. If you look at PSA 9, down around the same, 25% as well. Card Ladder actually does feature one of the parallels. It features the green out of 99. And in PSA 10 condition, that one's down around 20%, sold for around $3,000 and now sells for around $2,300. So hanging out in line with the market are these 2017 Chrome Messis. Then, as we make the transition from Messi to Ronaldo, I wanted to talk about their matchups card because I think this one's really interesting in the fact that it's been outpacing the market pretty well in both PSA 9 and PSA 10. In PSA 9, it's up 19% over the past 6 months. And then in PSA 10, it's up almost 40% over the past 6 months. I would attribute this to this card being dumped during the World Cup. So if we go back 6 months, we're talking about January of 2023. And that was right off the heels of the World Cup, where a lot of people were selling soccer cards. And this is one of the most obvious things to sell during the World Cup. I bet if I go back and look at a year's worth of pricing data, this thing sold a bunch leading up to the World Cup. Look at all these sales. Yeah, all these are sales that are in line with the World Cup, and now it sells a bit less than it used to. In PSA 10 condition, I imagine you see the same thing over the past year. Wow, that's an interesting bottom point. So maybe the reason it's actually up so much is it had this weird bottoming out in February, and now it's on its way back to where it maybe should be. So in any event, very, very interesting. I guess my hypothesis on it being dumped prior to the World Cup is wrong. But in any event, this card is up 39% on the year or on the 6 month range. And this one is up 20% on the 6 month range as well. So interesting to note that this card is performing very well in comparison to the overall market. Okay, then we'll talk about Ronaldo's rookie right here. I would talk about the sticker, but with so many face graded by BGS and how infrequently the PSA one actually sells, there's just not a lot of good data points to go off of. So I have to use the card instead. I went down to the BGS 8.5 grade range just so I could get a few sales on a graph here. Over the past 6 months, it's flat, 3.2%. Go down to PSA 8. Like I said, this card doesn't sell all that often in the higher grades. If we go down to PSA 6, it is flat over the past 6 months. BGS 6, not enough grades. Go down to PSA 5, down 29%, so in line with the market. And then if we go down to PSA 4, in line with the market. So this card, it's not completely crashing. It's pretty much either performing in line with the market or flat over the past 6 months. So that probably makes sense. A lot of people are saying that the sky is falling on Ronaldo's market, but in terms of his super key cards like this one, or like the matchups cards with Messi, or like some of the ones I'm going to go over here on these next few links, it's not completely crashing. The stuff, in my opinion, without looking at every single Ronaldo card, is the stuff that's not key to his market all that much. So random inserts from 2016, random inserts from 2017 that aren't part of the Chrome set, maybe some high-end stuff that got super expensive and is now falling back down because there's not as many high-end buyers. That sort of stuff is really getting killed. The super keys on his market, they're really not performing that bad. This one, see, this is what I'm talking about right here. In my opinion, this is not a super key to the Ronaldo market for a few reasons. One, he has a lot of early stuff in between 2002 and 2006. For Messi, this card is important because, one, it's his first World Cup card. Now, it's Ronaldo's first World Cup card as well, but Ronaldo doesn't have the World Cup legacy that Messi has. And Messi also doesn't have a lot of cards between 2004 and 2006, whereas Ronaldo appears in a lot of different sets between 2002 and 2006. So, in my opinion, this is not a key card for Ronaldo in the same way it is a key card for Messi, and that's why you're seeing this huge drop-off in terms of this card's market. If I go to PSA 9, I'm guessing it's down as well. Nope, I'm wrong. It's actually pretty flat. So maybe the market disagrees with me and they still think this is a key card for Ronaldo. I think you can make an argument for that, considering it's his first World Cup card, even though it's not as important as Messi's, in my opinion. Perhaps it's still a key on his market, and in PSA 9, it's holding pretty well. Interested in PSA 8. In PSA 8, it's getting a little beat up, but that could just be because of the last few sales. So interesting going on here. Again, the PSA 10, much like what I said with the Messi, I worry about these cards in the super expensive price ranges. So it makes sense to me why this is so down in the top grade. But a lot of people do really like these cards. So in the more reasonable price ranges of a few $100s, they're holding up pretty well. Okay, then this is a card that is probably pretty key for Ronaldo. Not the base, but some of the parallels probably. one of the most popular modern sets. In base condition, this is actually up very, very healthily, a 28% increase over the past 6 months. We started off at $70 and now we are at $90, so a nice $20 increase there. A lot of sales in here. It bottomed out at around $38 and is now all the way up to 90. So interesting there. Again, these are really, really high pop cards in base, so not my favorite thing in the world. Interesting that Card Ladder only has the blue and red wave and PSA 10 as the other option to look at. We'll go ahead and look at it real quick. It is flat, up 5.5%. So like I was saying before, Ronaldo's market isn't crashing in terms of the more key stuff, but the less key stuff and the super expensive stuff I could definitely see crashing. And then this is more of a minor key or a more niche key in his market, but still a key. Like I said with Mbappé, the 2018 Kaboom set, despite the fact that this is Juventus kit for Ronaldo, and usually Juventus stuff sells at a big discount, this has been performing really well. It is flat or up 7.65% on the past 6 months. Again, this is low pop. It comes from a set where a lot of people are interested in collecting these, so it makes sense to me why this is holding so well, despite the fact that it is Juventus Ronaldo. And if we go by the narrative, Ronaldo's market is crashing. This is the sort of stuff you would think would crash, but it has some other fundamentals working for it that are keeping it up. And now, since this is a James Cards FC podcast / episode / show, we're going to talk about the United States men's national team. I promise we're only going to talk about 2 players and 2 cards. I just wanted to look at Christian Pulisic really quick to see how he had trended over the past 6 months, and his rookie from Select in PSA 10 condition is right in line with the market, down at 28.5% in PSA 10. If you go to the multicolor prism, it is down much harder. It is down around 50%. Yeah, this is selling a lot. Its population is 157, and the base population is 305. This one sells for $100. This one sells for $200. So interesting. At least me personally, I would rather have the multicolor prism for $200 than the base for $100, but I guess the market is not willing to pay that much for Pulisic cards at this point. Moving to Giovanni Reina, his rookie cards are a lot more expensive for a couple of reasons. One, this is because it's the refractor and it's pretty rare at Pop 115, and he's not in a lot of rookie sets. So in PSA 10 condition, this one can be pretty expensive. It actually got a bump here recently off the back of the nice performances the U.S. men's national team had. It was 363, and then somebody got a little excited, I guess, and bought one for 500. Up 23.5% on the past 6 months, so well outperforming the market, which makes sense. At this point, Giovanni Reina had just come out of a very disappointing World Cup, and then he started playing really well for club, and then he recently played really well for country, so his stock is sort of on the rise again, so it's not surprising to me that he's outperforming the market in refractor and PSA 10. And if you go to base, he's actually getting hit pretty hard still, down 37%, so a little bit worse than the overall market over the past 6 months. There are a lot of these, 855 of them in PSA 10, whereas the refractor, like I said, is only 115. So the refractor performing a bit better when these are both sort of in the low / mid-end price range. People are just apparently not willing to not wanting to spend the $40 to $50 for this one. They'd rather move up the chain and go for something like this. Okay, United States men's national team stuff out of the way. No, we're talking about the U.S. in today's video. We'll move to Jude Bellingham. He's tough to get data on because he just has so many different rookie cards, and Card Ladder doesn't have all of them, which, I mean, makes sense. There's too many variations to even count. I just went with the Sapphire Edition PSA 10. It's down 11 to 12% over the past 6 months, but considering the market overall is down 28% or whatever it was, not faring too bad. Now, if this was 2020 or early 2021, you would have the logic that, well, he just got this massive transfer to Real Madrid, so his cards should explode. That's not really a thing in the modern soccer card market. All that sort of stuff is already priced in. That's not coming by surprise to people. His big move has been talked about pretty much ever since even the Sapphire product came out. And if we move back to when the Sapphire product came out, he was a very, very expensive player, but as more of these get graded and the general market takes a downturn and there's no more FOMO on Jude Bellingham, the price sort of is what it is for the past year or so. Then I want to talk quickly about Vinicius Jr. I found his optic hollow in PSA 10 here. It is right in line with the market, down 28% in PSA 10. In PSA 9, it is down 52.5%. It had really low sale there, actually. In the exact same week, it went from 125 down to $57. Not sure what happened here, but took a dive there. If we take off this sale right here at the end, it would actually look very, very flat. So depending on where you want to cut it, his market is either in line with the market or pretty flat. I only included Vinny Jr. because I think he's probably going to be one of the guys that the market is monitoring the most over the next year, just because Real Madrid looks like it's going to have a lot of attention on it. Benzema is gone, so there's a lot of goals, at least unless they bring in some more transfers that need to be picked up by somebody. So it makes sense that those goals would go to a guy like Vinicius Jr. So at least in my opinion, he's one to keep an eye on right now. I have no idea if that's going to affect his prices or anything, but I think there's going to be a lot of attention on Bellingham and Vinicius Jr. in this next season. Then I wanted to look at two COVID guys. I say they're COVID guys because when COVID was a thing, they were the guys that were the most talked about in the market. One of them was Ansu Fati. His PSA 10 mega cracks is right in line with the market, down 25% over the past 6 months. Amazing player, world class at times, but he literally just can't stay healthy. Super frustrating because he is really entertaining and really talented, but if he's never going to be healthy, it's not really going to matter. This card was a ridiculous price at one point. I'll go back just so you can see it. When the market started paying attention to prospects like Ansu Fati, it came out of the gates at around $1,500, and then it peaked out at over $5,000 in early 2021. Now, keep in mind, this is a completely different market and a completely different Ansu Fati. At this point in the market, it was between him and Haaland, and Fati was even given the number 10 kit at Barcelona for a reason. A lot of people thought this was Messi's replacement and the next Messi, but he has just never been able to stay healthy enough to perform and put up a bunch of goals. So, and like with a lot of things in the market, it has slid all the way back down, and it's now at its cheapest point pretty much ever, depending on when you can catch it. So, no idea what's going to happen with his career. I really hope he stays healthy. His cards are extremely dangerous because he is always injured. But if he does put together a run of clean form and gets the injuries behind him, I could see him as a guy the hobby would really like again because he just makes so much sense. He plays for a nation that a lot of people care about. He plays for a club that a lot of people care about. He has all the talent in the world, but it doesn't matter if he can't stay healthy. So super high risk, super high reward. I personally wouldn't be looking at his market because I think that's a little risky for my taste, but I can completely understand people that are willing to take a chance on a guy like Ansu Fati. I'd much rather take a chance on him than take a chance on some center midfielders that don't score or things like that. Then this one is scary. This is Jadon Sancho. This is his PSA 10 Chrome rookie. The card ladder values it currently at $2.61 in PSA 10. You can't even grade something for that cheap. Grading right now is $15 or $19. So the fact that it most recently sold for $5 is a nightmare. Yeah, this is scary. Over the past 6 months, it is down 75% from $20 down to $5. And close your eyes right here. If you go back all time, this peaked out at over $1,000 in late 2020, along with Ansu Fati and Erling Haaland. Jadon Sancho was one of those guys that the market was obsessed with, and for good reason. He was incredible at Dortmund. I mean, this card stayed in this hundreds of dollars range for a very, very long time until even going into this past season, it was still in this $100 to $50 range. But yeah, everything's sort of gone wrong for Sancho. Oh, that rated growth is scary, minus 99%. Like I was saying, everything sort of has gone wrong for Sancho. He's gone to Man United. He's either been injured or been on leave or can't get in the starting lineup. And when he is in the starting lineup, he hasn't looked very good. He's not scoring goals. He's not assisting. He's not doing fancy dribbles like he was in the Bundesliga. Looks like a completely different player. It's really unfortunate stuff. So maybe there's a buying point at some point. Can't really get much lower than $2.61, but there's so many of these and so many people that are underwater on them. It's a massive climb for a guy like Jadon Sancho at this point. Okay, switching over to vintage to talk about a couple players. I'm just going to talk about Pele and Maradona. We'll start with Pele. This is one of his most popular vintage issues because of the picture and where it's from. This is a really nice image. It's the Aquarela rookie that came from Brazil. A lot of people really like this just because of the image, and I'm one of those people. I really appreciate this image. It's great. It's probably one of his best looking rookies. And despite the fact that it's not all that rare, it has been holding pretty well. Excuse me. It is down 20% over the past 6 months. Keep in mind the market overall is down around 28%. So pretty much in line with the market or a little bit outperforming in PSA 2 condition. I actually haven't looked higher up the chain. It's probably harder to get a good sample here. In PSA 5, flat as well, although this one had an IPO designation. This card in particular is tough because you can't really see much difference, at least in my opinion, between the grades. I personally don't know how PSA is grading these perforated cards. What makes these clean edges versus not clean edges? What makes them clean corners versus not clean corners? I really don't know. This is one of those cards, like with most vintage stuff, in my opinion. You just find one that you think has good eye appeal and you enjoy looking at it and you sit on it in your collection. I personally wouldn't be interested in the super high grade ones because I don't really see much of a difference between the low grades and the high grades. Let me see if I can get a picture of the PSA 5 or something like that. Like, okay, memorize the picture. This is a PSA 5. Sells for around $20,000. This is a PSA 2. Sells for like $2,000. So, at least in my opinion, I don't see a big enough difference between those two cards to warrant the big price change, but that's just me. This card is holding pretty well despite the fact that it is pretty high pop. It's very in demand for Pele. A card that is not holding that well is this Pele Alifa Bolajet. I almost forgot the name for some reason. That would have been really embarrassing. But yeah, the Pele Alifa is in a very interesting spot. So in PSA 2 condition, it sort of sells more than any other grade. It's hard to get a good gauge of where the market is on these because they sell so infrequently. But in early January, it sold for $30,000. Then a couple weeks later, it sold for $21,000. And then in early February, it sold for $19,000. Card Ladder can be wrong, and usually it is wrong on really tough to value cards. But Card Ladder is valuing it currently at around $12,000. I don't know how far off that is, but I don't think this is a $20,000 card anymore because I don't think there's as much interest on this card as there used to be. People are more targeting the higher grades, and a lot of people like to target different Peles. This is a very, very expensive Pele in a low grade, so I'm not sure what the buyer pool is, even at $12,000 for something like this. Would I love to have one? Yes, but I mean, for even $12,000, let's go with the last sale, $20,000. For $20,000, you could buy like one of literally every other Pele in low grade, or you could buy the low grade Alifa Bolajet. So I think the price point's just really tough. It's not as rare as I think people generally think it is. I think either 100 to 150 of them have been graded in total by PSA. So it's not very many, but it's not a tiny amount that they never come up and are super rare and always going to be super expensive. So I just don't know what the buyer pool is. Like with any other stock card, if I show you the all-time look, these were literally like $1,000 a few years ago, and now they're $20,000. So that sort of stuff is scary to me. Do I respect this card? Yes. Do I think it's super important to this market? Yes. But am I interested in it in these price points? I think it's still a little scary just because I don't know how many people are in the market for this sort of card when Pele has so many alternatives. And so many different ways you can go with this market. If you want something from Brazil, you have things like the Aquarela, or you even have the Americana, which is around the same price as something like the Alifa Bolajet. So yeah, this card's an interesting spot. I'd be really curious to see what it would sell for right now, but I'm not sure when it's going to be coming to market again. A PSA 1, it looks like just sold for, not just sold, but a few months ago sold for $10,000. Let me look at that over the past year. Yeah, over the past year in PSA 1, it's down 44%. Last sold for around $10,000. So a PSA 2 going for around $15,000 maybe sounds about right. But yeah, in any event, I think it's a scary time for stuff like this that went up so high and is now starting its slide back down. But yeah, still a very, very key card in the market, and one I would love to own someday, as long as I didn't have to pay for like a mid-sized car amount of money for it. Mid-sized used car, I guess. Enough about Pele. Let's move to Maradona. This is his 1977 rookie Pog or disc card. This is his only 1977 issue. So unlike Pele, where you have like 20 different items from 1958, Maradona has one item from 1977, and it's this Pog, and it's really not performing that well. Now, I will say in the low grades, PSA 1.5, PSA 1, PSA 2, hard to get data because they don't sell very much, and the eye appeal can change drastically on PSA 1s and 1.5s. You can find PSA 1.5s that have really blurry images or a bunch of scratches on them, or it's really bad edges. So all that sort of stuff to take into account. This is a really, really nice looking 1.5 in my opinion. But yeah, in any event, it is down 33%, basically in line with the market or a little bit worse over the past 6 months. Card Ladder says it's worth even less, though. Card Ladder thinks it's worth around 1750, which would drop this down to like 40% or something like that over the past 6 months. So not performing too well. I would give the same take as I would give with the Baccarella. Find one in a lower grade or whatever grade you're comfortable with good eye appeal, and enjoy having it in your collection. This is I'll do the same thing. This is a PSA 1.5, look at the image. This is a PSA 5, look at the image. This one is $8,000. This one is $2,000. Take your pick. Yeah, at least what I would be doing if I was looking to acquire one of these, I would just be looking to get a low grade one that looks really nice, and I would enjoy having it without having to spend, again, a used car amount of money for it. Okay, this one shocked me. I have no idea why this is up 67%, but it is. In PSA 7 condition, which is the highest condition you can get multiple sales of to build a good chart, it is up a lot over the past 6 months. So opens at 1,500 and most recently sold in early June for 2,500, a $1,000 increase for this Diego Maradona 1979 Panini in PSA 7 condition. I don't have a reason for why this happened. You can see it has been scaling up pretty well over the past few months. So I really don't know. It's not super low pop. There's higher grades than this that become available. Let me zoom out a little bit further over the past 2 years. Maybe people just thought it got to a price point that was too low and have started buying it back up. I'm not really sure what's going on here, but it's a very, very key card for Maradona. So it makes sense that it would outperform the market, but outperforming the market to the extent that it has over the past 6 months seems very, very impressive to me. So I understand why it would perform well, but other important cards that are just as important or more important than this one aren't performing that well. So just something to keep an eye on, I guess. And even as you go down the grades, it's not performing that well. This is really nice as well, though, up 18%. You go down to PSA 5, flat. We'll check the lower grades here. We'll go through all of them. PSA 4, not enough sales. And then PSA 3, down 50%. So interesting. In the very low grades, not doing well. But as you go up to the mid to high grades, seems to be doing extremely well. Not sure why that is. I would do some more research if this is something you're interested in picking up. I think it's a great piece of soccer history. And I will say, with this sticker and stickers like this in particular, I do think the grades start to matter a bit more because this is a PSA 7. Look at the image. This is a PSA 3. Look at the image. It's more faded. You can clearly see the edges in the corner whereas with some other issues, it's not as apparent. But with specific issues like this, it is very easy to see the difference in the grades. PSA 2, you can see all the edge wear and the indentation there. It's still a really nice copy and a really nice collectible to have, but I can see clearly why going higher up the chain makes a difference here. And going higher up the chain and grades and a card like this is a lot different. We're talking about a difference of $2,500 and $300. Whereas when you go to this, you're talking about a difference of $2,500 to like $8,000. So just interesting there. This Maradona in mid to high grades performing very, very well over the past 6 months. And then we'll move into the very final one. It's not a card, it's a wax box. And I just wanted to cover wax just really briefly, just to see what was going on with it. This is probably the most key wax box that you can buy in terms of modern product. It is a 2014 Prism World Cup Soccer Hobby Box. It is currently valued at around $2,000 over the past 6 months. That is down 55%, so doing much worse than even the soccer card market overall. A lot of factors going into this. Again, the high end of the market is dropping a lot worse than the mid or low end form of the market for a variety of reasons that's happening. And since the reason you would be buying boxes like this is try and hit high end items, when those high end items start to drop, the boxes can start to drop as well. So what we're seeing here is, at least in my opinion, that's the effect that's going on here. If you look all time, same thing with everything in the soccer card market. Nobody wanted these boxes for over $100 at any point in here. And then it starts to get a little bit of a run up in 2020, goes to the moon in 2021, and is sort of falling back down. If we look where we're at right now, like with most things, we're in that late 2020-ish. Actually, this went to the moon with the base prism boom. So a little bit before the 2020 run up, late 2020 run up is where we're at with this. Not sure where it's going to settle, but the fact that the high end market for cards like this is continuing to drop is sort of forcing this down. I mean, let me look at the Messi gold real quick, just to see if this backs up my thoughts. Yeah. Wait, that's interesting. Oh, no. Okay, yeah, that's over the past year. So over the past year, this card in PSA 9 dropped from, what is this at? $200,000 down to $100,000. And Card Ladder is now valuing it at around $75,000. So when the high end of the market falls out, I lost my box. The boxes don't perform well is the point I was trying to make. So that will go ahead and do it for today's video. I thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hope you learned something. Yeah, tough to do without my slides and my aids, but feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, all that sort of fun stuff, leave it in the comments down below. Discord link in the description to talk to soccer card market participants like myself and a few other content creators, and Instagram in the link as well if you want to DM me there. So all that's out of the way. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.